Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the Force of the High Elves against the Force of Norsca. And I had it, essentially what I read on the forums at one point, or noticed on the forums, was someone saying that Phoenix Guard are a really solid counter to Norsca, and I haven't really been playing this matchup very much. I haven't really been in this matchup, so I figured, you know what, I'll give it a shot. I've seen that used against me a few times, where people bring Phoenix Guard as Norsca. I haven't had that much issue with it because I usually bring Chariots, and Chariots kind of mulch high in infantry pretty well. But I figured, you know, let's give it a try. Let's see what we can work. So what I decided to do is I brought a core of Phoenix Guard, figuring that they should do rather well. They've got I chevron some of them up. I brought the Keepers of the Flame, the Regiment of Renown, and backed them up with Alariel. So of course we're going to have a lot of physical resist hopefully on these guys. With Alariel's presence, they're going to be up to 42% physical resist, which is pretty ludicrous. Norsca doesn't have that much access to magic damage, besides the Fimir, but these guys should do rather well against Fimir due to their huge melee stats and AP and anti-large. Otherwise, of course, they'd cause fear. They've got martial mastery. They've got 100 armor to boot, 56 melee defense with a few chevrons, 65 with 9. It's pretty crazy. And of course, there's not too much Norsca I think can do necessarily to break these guys up. So I went with the heavy Phoenix Guard build, backed them up with Alariel. She does have basically her full kit. Only missing a whole bunch of spells. I only went with 2 spells. I brought Shva's Protection as well as Earthblood just for the heals and the protective buffs. Of course, she's no pushover in melee herself. Definitely has respectable, if not inspiring, stats, and you know she can do okay. She can definitely support and keep these troops doing good. In the backline, we do have a single unit of spears, or actually 2 units of spears, providing protection for my single unit of Sisters of Avalorn. And I wanted 1 unit of AP shooting just in case I needed to deal with or try to soften up Fimir, or just try to shoot down mammoths and that sort of stuff, and kind of force my opponent to make some rash perhaps decisions, trying to push through the Phoenix Guard, trying to get into the Sister of Avalorn. So I did bring a single unit of them. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Sister of Avalorn. I think they're pretty costly and not necessarily cost effective, but hey, we're going to try to make them work, and definitely they can deliver if they're allowed to keep firing. And in the Vanguard, we've got Illyrian Reavers as well as the Heralds of the Wind. I personally like the Heralds of the Wind, even though I know a lot of people don't bring them because they're very expensive, but with the extra speed, as well as their greater melee stats, I do find them to be a good counter to light counter-skirmish troops like Norscan Ice Wolves and like Beasts of Tashnar, that sort of stuff. You can quickly dumpster them with your Illyrian Reavers. Finally, in the back, we do have the Fireborn, who, of course, are a great regiment of renown. Some people say they're a little pricey, a little risky just because of the price, but I figured, you know, we want some AP, we want some, or not AP, but some anti-large, and something with a good charge bonus, something that can mop up infantry, all that sort of stuff, and these guys fit the bill. Now, for my opponent, very cheap front line. The front line here is just straight Marauders. I don't think there's a single unit of anything else. They are backed, though, by multiple Marauder Hunters, so an interesting take on the High Elf matchup, given that High Elves usually dominate the shooting game. 3 Marauder Hunters, though, could potentially just dumpster these Phoenix Guard, all Alariel support or no. They'll definitely do some great work. And they are backed by some Fimir warriors with great weapons, who of course can deliver some disgusting damage against large targets. But what I'm trying to do here initially is just try to whittle down these Marauder Hunters with my Illyrian Reavers and hopefully soften them up before they get into range. Alongside that, my opponent did bring a Fimir Balefiend of Shadows with Pit of Shades, Venerable Pendulum, and Melkot's Miasma. Wolfric on a Chariot, which I highly recommend. He does have the Hunter of Champions as well as his Longboat, his good old Sea Fang. 2 Ice Wolves, and then in the back line we do have, I do believe, a single Vanguard unit of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes looking to be a nuisance. So we have managed to chip away quite a bit at the Marauder Hunters. You can see they're down under half health. They've lost a good chunk of their models, definitely not doing terrible. Over here, I initially sallied out with the Spearmen, because what I was worried about a little bit was that my opponent would push in with the Marauder Hunters, start chipping away at me, and I wanted the Spears out in the front to zone out the Marauder Hunters. My opponent didn't really do anything about that, or he didn't push in quite yet, so what's going to happen here is the Spears are going to get pulled back and sort of retreat. In the meantime, I'm not entirely sure what that was supposed to be, but Sea Fang does go out and actually kind of dumpstered my opponent's own troops, which is a little unfortunate. Alariel's here in the pits providing some support, and the Fimir warriors with great weapons are coming in and they're angry, so we're going to start pulling away. We're going to start pulling away with our heavy cap, trying to escape. Venerable Pendulum goes down, just scything through my Phoenix Guard, but we are going to counteract with an Overcast Earthblood to make sure our Phoenix Guard aren't losing their martial mastery. In the meantime, the puppies are diving in, so we're just going to bog them down with the Fireborn. We're going to pull in our spears. We're going to look to sort of block this place off and get into a very brutal and protracted engagement, as our Illyrian Reavers are going to switch around the flank. In the meantime, the Sister of Avalorn are going to pivot and start pouring fire into Wolfric, pouring fire into these troops. And one of the things to keep in mind about the Sisters is that they can definitely, with their fire damage, they actually synergize rather well with Fireborn. Fireborn, because they're almost immune to fire damage, don't really have to worry too much about that friendly fire. So over here, you can see we're going to hit them with Fast Protection. We're going to get a recharge from all these this light cap, which is going to break the Ice Wolves, which is going to make life much easier as far as dealing with the Fimir Warriors goes, because of course Fimir Warriors, of course, aren't that great if they're getting surrounded. Their models are taking multiple hits, so that's definitely nifty for me. In the meantime, though, bit of my opponent is kind of slowly but surely chipping away here in the front line. He's kind of trickling in, which is a bit of a mistake. So you can see the Fimir Warriors here going in alone. The Marauders here alone against the Keepers of the Flame. Pit of Shade's definitely doing good, dropping my Phoenix Guard down. You can see the axes just pouring in, but Sister of Avalorn, despite a handful of Fimir kind of pushing through, they're doing work. They're going to be cleaving down and shooting these guys down. Over here, the Fireborn definitely getting mauled with another Earthblood going down, so they're going to stick around and fight. And the Lyrian Reavers in the meantime just running amok, just really shutting down this backline, dealing with these Norsca Hounds, and shutting these puppies down. So definitely some good stuff from those guys. And finally, we're actually going to be able to break those Fimir, so they're going to start routing. And that's one of the, I don't know if necessarily problems, but one of the weaknesses of Fimir is they don't necessarily have the best leadership. I'm not entirely sure what their exact leadership values are, but it's not spectacular. You can see over here, we're actually going to zone off these Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes with our spears. You can see they're just chasing them on a cross-country chase. These spears over here are going to come back in. Another Sea Fang goes down, does basically nothing. In the meantime, the Sisters are allowed to keep firing unmolested, which is a big mistake. My opponent should have thrown any unit here just to shut them down, because they're getting way too much value right now into these Fimir. In the backline, in the meantime, Phoenix Guard doing what they do best, which is chase backline troops. Over here, the Lyrian Reavers is just going to dive in, do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, we haven't healed them up, which is probably a mistake. We probably should have invested in Earthblood to keep these guys up and running. But they're going to be able to shut down these Marauder Hunters, do quite a bit of hurt here, and hopefully shut down the other Marauder Hunters too. Over in the meantime, once again, the Keepers of the Flame diving in, just shutting down this push. Of course, these guys explode when they die, so which makes them really strong against cheap garbage troops like Marauders. And the Sisters of Avalorn here are just going to keep pouring fire into the backs of these Fimir Warriors, and my opponent's leadership is just not really holding up, so he's going to be forced to rally here once again. Over here, these Marauder Hunters are going to rout as well, so we're going to be able to start pressuring them. We're actually going to push the Sisters of Avalorn into them and start beating them down in close quarters. And as these troops rout, we're actually going to be able to start chasing them off the field. We're going to be able, we have a lot of mobile troops, so we've got our Elite Reavers over here, we've got more Elite Reavers over here, we've got Phoenix Guard. So Spearmen, we even have a handful of Fireborn still around kicking. And between all those units, we should be able to sort of chase off, pressure off these Fimir. You can see over here the Marauder Horsemen wasting their time against these spears. Unfortunately, a bit of misplay over here on this flank, where our Illyrian Reavers are getting bogged down against the Marauder Hunters in a protracted fight, which is really not where they should be. But fortunately over here, the Illyrian Reavers are going to be able to force off the Fimir, which we really don't want coming back, because they can be absolutely brutal. So we definitely still have enough ammo to probably just pick them apart if needed, but we definitely don't want that happening. In the meantime, over here, Wulfric's the sole surviving major threat, I suppose, on the field, running away, trying to escape the Fireborn, but the Fireborn are not letting him go. He actually has respectable stats on his chariot, 48 and 30, not amazing, but not terrible either. He actually sweeps down multiple Fireborn there. We're down to 3 models, so nothing fancy. Obviously, the spears will do almost nothing. But fortunately, he's not amazing against Lariel either, which is definitely nice. Over here, she's going to get kind of bogged down against the Norscan Ice Wolves. But the Phoenix Guard are coming in to teach these puppies a lesson. And definitely, Lariel, she's taking a bit of a beating despite her 67 melee defense. She obviously doesn't have much in the way of armor. She's probably going to be able to win this pretty handily, but definitely not ideal. We're going to get plowed into here by Wulfric, who on the charge is going to do a lot of damage to our poor Ever Queen. And you can see just how many hundreds of points of damage are going in there. Hunter of Champions goes down, but we're going to start pulling away. The Phoenix Guard is going to pull in and hit ourselves with an Earthblood. And as my opponent is trying to shut Lariel down oh so desperately, the game is going to end as a close victory. So definitely some fun stuff with a high elf build. The Phoenix Guard definitely seem to be good. I'm not entirely sure if my support choices were correct. I wanted to try some stuff out. I'm not entirely sure if I should have gone with the Sisters, with the Fireborn, with that sort of stuff. Perhaps I went a little too elite with my supporting tools. I could have probably ditched the Sisters, got an extra unit of Dragon Princes, but I did find the Sisters performed rather well. We got a lot of value out of them, slicing through the enemy Fimir, and that was really important. But yeah, all in all, I was pretty pleased. As far as my opponent's build goes, not an interesting take with Marauder Hunters. I don't think that's really that good. Certainly my opponent had some backline defense here with the Fimir and the Ice Wolves, who can synergize rather well, but if your opponent goes heavy on shooting, they're just going to mow through this For example, if your opponent goes heavy on, let's say, high elf spears, brings a handful of shooting, what are you going to do against that? Your Marauders might. I'm not entirely sure if they beat high elf spears in 1v1, but I think they probably will. But it's going to take them forever. Your Marauder Hunters with throwing axes are going to do nothing because they're going to get mown down by archers. Your Fimir are not going to be particularly amazing against spears. So if your opponent just goes heavy on shooting and heavy on a cheap front line and has a handful of heavy cap, you're going to do nothing against him with this build because the 2 Norsca Night Wolves isn't enough backline harass to say deal with multiple Dragon Princes, even with Wolfric on a Chariot getting thrown into the mix. And you just don't really have the tools, in my opinion, to crack any high elf front line quickly or efficiently, which I think is a little bit of a problem. Maybe a front line with like White Lions you could do okay against, or a front line maybe even with Sword Masters because you can mulch through them with your Fimir. But yeah, I don't know. Regardless, good game to Bat Trail here. Definitely interesting take. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below to keep up with additional content. If you have any comments, any criticism, as usual, do not hesitate to ask. I will post them. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.